Hi everyone, my name is Tara Hammes and I'm with the Massachusetts Councils on Aging. Every town's Council on Aging and Senior Center is an important part of the community. They provide a variety of services from programming to transportation to community outreach and of course, nutrition. This Cooking as Self-Care series that MCOA has created has been brought to you in part by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts as well as Mass Access, who's dedicated to providing quality programming. I hope you'll enjoy what's next. Quinoa, quinoa. Cooking with gas. Not really. It's electric. It's electric. Boogie, 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 boogie. I will laugh at my own jokes, but the fact that you're here, you can laugh with me. What's up, party people? Welcome back to our second session of Cooking as Self-Care with the Massachusetts Councils on Aging. My name is Tara Hammes, and I am one of the directors of member services and a registered dietitian, but not a professional chef. This month, we've got a lot going on, and we are going to actually create a power bowl, salad bowl, grain bowl, whatever you want to call it, but we're going to talk a little bit more about why that is important and why self-care is important for you to do. The self-care includes taking care of your heart as well as your brain, which we'll cover in another session. But in February, we focus on not only heart health, but also Black History Month. And it's really important to tie the two together because African Americans have greater rates of not only diabetes, which damages the heart muscle, but also cardiovascular disease. So you think of heart attacks, high blood pressure, stroke, etc. And what we want to do today is talk about how we can eat well for our heart, as well as looking at the African heritage diet. What I have are not only food lists for the African American or the African heritage diet, common foods and flavors, but also a flyer on the heritage diet and what to eat. These are produced by Old Ways. They're available online, but you can also reach out to me and I'm happy to share these with you. So the recipe we're going to make today can be tailored to fit within the African heritage diet, which is fabulous because it not only gives you still plenty of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but also it broadens your horizons. It gives you other foods to try, and variety is very important in your meal planning. We're not going to say diet, we say meal plan, meal plan, meal plan. You don't have to say it like that, but you know, the more we dance, shake it around, the better. Because physical activity is just as important as what we put in our bodies. In February, the American Heart Association has a campaign called Go Red for Women, and you'll see women wearing red dresses, talking about wearing red dresses, wearing this red dress pin, and this pin is to raise awareness of the high rates of cardiovascular disease in women of all races. So this is my homage to all of us with hearts. Just a couple of us. Hey, who thinks the cat's going to get on the counter this month? I fed them so they will stay away, but you never know. What we're going to make this month are quinoa bowls with sweet and smoky roasted vegetables. What you will do first is measure out 1 pound of Brussels sprouts. And if you're not sure how much a pound is if you buy them. You can buy them frozen if you like. You can also buy them fresh in the produce department. There are scales there. But if you get a bunch home and you're not really sure, oh, how much do I need? I love my kitchen scale. I love it. I love it. I didn't think I was going to love it this much for $11 off. So 16 ounces is a pound by weight. And you're going to take the Brussels sprouts. Might be a little harder to chew if you use frozen. Chuck it in the sink. And you can take off the outer leaves if they look a little funky, a little blemished, but you don't really have to. And then you're going to have them. Two halves make a whole. Right? Cut up about a pound of these. You're going to lay them out on a baking sheet, and then you're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, some adobo sauce, some maple syrup, and a half teaspoon of salt. The other option, which were I not using this recipe, if I were just making this on my own for the first time, I would use a smoked chipotle Tabasco sauce. This is something that I use in a lot of dishes, and so instead of it being the typical Tabasco sauce, it's a smoked chipotle flavor. Equally as hot, it's the smokiness, it does have the heat. You can use this instead, and you can shake out a tablespoon of that. So that'll save you, well, maybe $2 or $3, even though this is a little bit more, but you'll use this on more items. And if you don't want to use the smoked chipotle sauce, you don't have to. You can use regular Tabasco. And remember last month when we were saying how you do what works for you? We're going to carry that theme forward. We're going to keep using that. So take your Brussels sprouts and coat it with the olive oil, the salt, the adobo sauce, and the maple syrup. On a second baking sheet, you're going to combine 3 cups of cubed butternut squash. You can peel and chop this yourself. You can buy it pre-cut in the store, or you can buy it in the frozen section from the store. Combine your squash with the oil, the salt, garlic powder, and preferably smoked paprika, but regular paprika is fine. And roast the Brussels sprouts and the squash at 425 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. If you only have one pan, you can use the same pan. Just make sure that your food is arranged in a single layer. To our 2 cups of broth, we're going to add 1 cup of quinoa. This quinoa is tricolored. You can also buy red quinoa or your regular quinoa, which is the beige color. It really doesn't matter, whichever one you want to try, whichever one is on sale or has the lowest unit price, that's the one I buy. They really don't vary in fiber, fat, and protein content. All right, mix this up. What we're going to do is set it on the stove, bring it to a boil, and then we're going to turn the heat down to low, cover, and let it cook for 15 minutes so that the quinoa will absorb the moisture. Okay. While we're waiting for the quinoa to cook, I've already started chopping the kale, which we will add to the quinoa once it's ready. And this is the kale. This is the kale. This is kale. Kale had a huge trend a couple years ago, and I'm not one to follow huge food trends. I do not love kale. I like kale, but I don't love it. I'm not a kale chip fan, but it is great for you. Any leafy green that you want to use, you can, maybe not any. But for this recipe, it calls for 2 cups of kale. I pretty much already have 2 cups in here. And these stems have already been, oops, always broken. Sad kale. Already been rinsed, You don't want to eat the stems because the stems are not very tasty and a little bit rough. Take the lovely curly kale, fold the leaves in half, lay it flat, and take your handy dandy knife and just sort of slice it down the side of the stem, toss the stem into the garbage disposal, and then go ahead and chop the rest of it up, making sure you do not cut your fingers. Easier said than done sometimes. Right. And you can make the pieces as large or as small as you want. Scoop this up, throw it in the bowl. Again, like I said, we're going to throw it in the quinoa once it's done, and then we'll have it slightly wilted, a little bit cooked, and ready to go in the base of our bowl. The quinoa bowl can not only be tailored for your preferences, but I mentioned earlier that we have the African heritage diet. You can also tailor the quinoa bowl, this quinoa bowl, to use a number of those ingredients. So for example, instead of kale, you could use spinach if you want, or if you want to follow the African heritage diet, you could use collards. Instead of a butternut squash, you could use yucca. You could use sweet potato. So yucca for the African heritage diet, sweet potato for another option. Instead of quinoa, you could use millet, and the millet would follow the African heritage diet too. Any of them are fine. They're whole grains. The quinoa is actually not only gluten-free, but certified kosher for Passover. Along the lines of tailoring the bowls, if you don't like any of the ingredients that we're using here, you can follow a general template. And the template of the bowl, the power bowl, the salad bowl, whatever you want to call it, is as follows.
We're going to use about a half cup of whole grains. So that could be your quinoa, it can be millet, brown rice, farro, barley, something whole grain that has lots of the B vitamins in there. To that, add 4 ounces or half cup of protein, whether that is meat, eggs, beans. You can use edamame or chickpeas or black beans, whatever you like. Next, you want to add 1 to 2 cups of vegetables. And I recommend at least using 2 different colors of vegetables. If you want to use 1 cup of 2 different types of vegetables, you can. If you want to use half cup of 4 different types of roasted vegetables, you can do that as well. You can also add to the bowl a 1/4 cup of different types of toppings, whether those are nuts, avocado slices, seeds, dried fruit. Those are all great options because they're all whole foods. And then, of course, we need to add a little bit of the lube, a little bit of the dressing, help it slide on down. And that can be salad dressing, either that you make at home or you buy in the store. It could be hummus, it could be salsa, it can just be a little bit of olive oil and vinegar.
Let's check on the quinoa. It looks like it's done. It's absorbed most of the liquid. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. We'll work on that. And then we'll go ahead and add the kale to it, about 2 cups of it. We don't need to add all of it because I have chopped up a little more than I needed this time. And again, my pan's too small, but that's okay. We'll get it in there. Nice and gentle so I don't make a mess. All right, I'm gonna stir in the kale. And this will just help to soften it a little bit. Just a little bit of wilting. Nice, really beautiful, bright green color. I don't know if you can see that, but it's awesome. I don't know, you can't really go wrong with too many veggies, so I'm going to go ahead and just add the rest of it in here. What else am I going to do with it? It's not like we're baking, but apparently we are going to make a mess. So this looks nice. I like this. I ended up making a mess, but it's okay. All right. Ooh, doesn't that look pretty? Nom, nom, nom. All right. Okay, quinoa. We're gonna set this little beautiful piece aside. And now let's get the squash and the, oh my God, you guys, everything, no. The squash and the Brussels sprouts out of the oven. So this recipe serves 4. You can have as much as you want for one meal if you want to have 2 servings, or you can portion it out and store it in the fridge for whenever you want to eat it. We are going to eyeball it because it's fun that way. And you know what, let's use this same bowl because who likes doing 85 different dishes, and this just had the kale in there. But typically you layer it, you put the grains on the bottom, and then you start with the veggies. We're just gonna do a nice happy scoop here. Ooh, that looks beautiful. Ooh, isn't that pretty? That is pretty, actually. What do you know? All right, we have the quinoa, we have the kale. Now we're going to add the roasted vegetables. We'll layer the colors. And see, the squash cooks down, so it doesn't really, doesn't make a ton. You can always cook more. A little bit of the squash. I always like to use the foil because it helps with cleanup. Oftentimes it makes it easier. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the foil foils you. Beautiful quinoa, kale, Brussels sprouts, squash, and what else do we need in here? This is gonna be, it smells incredible. It smells incredible. The next piece, remember we said we layer, we have the whole grains, we have the vegetables. We actually had kale, Brussels sprouts, and the squash. And then we're gonna add a little bit of the honey Dijon dressing. So this recipe calls for 1/2 cup, and 1/2 cup is 8 tablespoons. So divided by 4, it's 2 tablespoons. There's 16 tablespoons in a cup. And I don't like a ton of dressing, so I'm only going to add 1 tablespoon, just because I don't like a ton of it. Just like the salt, it calls for kosher salt, but you can use regular table salt. And I think the next time I were to bake this, because we use the bouillon, which is high in sodium, I would probably use a little bit less of the added salt for the roasting of the veggies. Or you could also use less of the bouillon and more water when you're cooking the quinoa. The bouillon is nice because it gives it a little bit of extra flavor. That was a lot of info. You can make your own honey Dijon dressing if you like, or you can just buy it because that's easy. And there's a wide range of manufacturers out there. This one is the less expensive end, but you can certainly choose another if you have a favorite. All right, so that's not a ton of dressing, but that is okay with me. And then remember, we also said you could add some toppers on here. We could put some flax seeds on here or some sesame seeds. You could throw in some pistachios maybe, or some walnuts, maybe some, even sliced apples would be yummy in here. We're also gonna add a little bit of avocado. So for folks who don't usually purchase avocados, I encourage you to, at least a little bit, to try if you like, because they are the healthy fats, the fats that are good for your heart and your brain. They're not the saturated fats, which are gonna clog your vessels up. The avocados are usually gonna be pretty hard in the store, or like too soft and on sale. When you buy it, bring it home, and in order to get it to ripen a little bit faster, you want to put it near something that has some ethylene gassing off. So if you have bananas, stick your avocado near there, or you can always put your avocado in a paper bag. You'll know that it's ripe when you can just sort of start to feel it give when you give it a gentle squeeze. You can also tell if it's ripe when you pop the little stem cap top. I'm sure that has a name, but I don't know what it is, off, and you can see that it's starting to turn. Ooh. The avocado has a big giant seed in there. Ooh. Beauty. Beautiful, isn't it? So the top of this was just tan, and it's perfectly ripe. And then you can slice the avocado right in the peel. And you can also cross hatch it. So you're making cubes-ish. And just squeeze it right out on top of the salad as much as you want. It serves 4, so 1 avocado, you want to use maybe a quarter of an avocado. And the avocado will oxidize, but when that happens, so it will turn brown, all you have to do is scrape off that layer that turned brown, and you'll notice underneath it's still the greenish yellow, and you can still use the rest of that avocado. Some say if you keep it in the pit, it's not going to oxidize. It will. But just put it in an airtight container and scrape off the brown part, and then you can still eat the rest of it. It's fine. Okay, so we have this. Oh, it's still warm. It feels good. We have the quinoa with the kale and the Brussels sprouts and the squash with the smoked paprika and a little bit of heat from the adobo sauce. And we have some salt and the garlic powder and a little bit of sweet with the maple syrup. And what did I miss? What am I forgetting? The honey Dijon, the honey mustard dressing. You don't have to buy honey Dijon. If you have honey mustard, you can use that too, or another flavor that you prefer. And then a little bit of avocado on top. You can add some freshly ground pepper to it, and you can enjoy it immediately while it's warm, or you can refrigerate it for another meal. Whatever you do, if you're going to save it later on, make sure that, and this goes for most of what you cook at home, you definitely want to eat leftovers within 7 days at the most. This probably within 3 days or so, just so that you don't get any foodborne illness, any food poisoning. We want to make sure that you go ahead and eat the foods that are good for you and don't cause you any harm. Makes sense, right? Okay. So we're gonna go, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and try this. We're gonna mix it all up. Oh man, this looks good. Ooh, that's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. Let's try a little bit. That is nice. So the heat of the paprika and the adobo is not overpowering because it is diluted with all of the other ingredients. That is very, very nice. That'll be a nice little lunch and dinner. That'll happen. Who knows? However many meals I make out of that. 3 more, probably, right? Okay. All right, so there's your quinoa bowls with sweet and smoky roasted vegetables. I want to point out that I know we're in Massachusetts and there aren't a lot of seasonal produce items available in January and February. Not even produce, but agricultural items. Maple syrup is one of them. This is a fabulous handout that I included the link to on last month's YouTube session. And you can also ask me for this one as well. I'll put another link to it there. This is through the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. It shows you which fruits and vegetables and aquaculture and plants and other forestry products and fiber are in season which month all year round. And the reason I bring this to your attention is because often the foods that are grown locally and in season have the greatest nutrient content. And then you're also supporting local businesses as well. Just a tool for you to have if you want to use it. If you don't, no worries. Okay, so hopefully this will feel like some self-care. You can go ahead and make it. You get your 4 meals out of it. It's good for your heart. It's good for cancer prevention. You can modify it. That's going to be our theme, I think, for this year. Make it work for you. You can tweak it so it will fit with the African heritage diet. Or you can just go out on a limb and make it your own. If you do that, please let me know. I really want to hear about it. That would be fabulous to hear what kind of substitutions you make. And I feel like the dancing is coming on again. You know when you have a song stuck in your head? Yeah, I have that all day long right now. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that you are safe, that you are as well as you can be, that you're reaching out to friends and family. We don't want folks to be too socially isolated. I know this is a very difficult time right now. Please contact your local Council on Aging. If there's anything you need, they can help you with all types of services, as well as just to be a friendly voice on the phone if you need someone to talk to. With that, I will say happy February, go Red for Women, and I will see you next month. Who's cleaning up? Kitty, come clean up. I hope you enjoyed the program. This is just one of the ways the Councils on Aging are serving folks statewide. If you're looking for more information, please contact your local Council on Aging by calling them or visiting their website. Thank you and be well.